Here you go. And five, four, three, two, one. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the new episode of the Coffee or Tea podcast. And today, I have a very special guest. I have the talented and the strong trainer, cheerleader,
Yeah, ex-cheerleader.
ex-cheerleader, Jen. I actually don't know how to pronounce your last name. Jen, I'm going to try it. Jennifer Lemke.
Yeah, you got it right.
Yes,
That was
I
good.
got it.
That was good.
For the people who don't know you, give us a very quick introduction to what you do, who you are, and where you're at right now.
Cool. Well, I'm Jen, and I am a fitness and nutrition coach professionally. I am a Canadian, currently living abroad in Brisbane, Australia. And yeah, that's pretty much sums me up right now. I was in a long distance relationship, and now I am not because I am in Australia. Yeah, I've been doing my job for 7 years. Straight out of basically college, I started doing fitness and nutrition coaching, and here I am still doing it and loving it.
Sounds
And
good.
I've just adapted it to work for my crazy lifestyle.
Brilliant. Now, for the people who are wondering, this episode is being recorded on May 13th, 2020. So, which means we are still in our lockdown because of COVID-19, which is why we are doing this over Zoom and not in either her apartment or my place. So that's the spiel. How are you, Jen?
I'm good. I'm good. You know, considering how strange the world is right now, I am doing very well.
So, because you're like stuck in an apartment,
yeah.
What are you? And then you're not like everyone else where you like you're working, you're like your essential work where you can work outside. Like what the hell do you do all day?
Yeah, well, I mean, me and Law have been quite fortunate because our routines have stayed relatively the same, other than the fact that we are now living and working under the same roof, like
Are you ready to
24/7.
kill your boyfriend? I would.
I'm not. No, it's good. It's good. But it's funny because we go from, being completely opposite side of the world to then finally being together and like in the most isolated situation you can imagine. And
Yeah.
we've done both extremes fairly well, right?
Mother Nature's like, you can have exactly what you want.
Yeah, it took it from one extreme all the way to the next.
Yeah.
Took our what we wanted way too literally.
Yeah. And also your boyfriend is one of my best friends, so I can talk shit about him. Fuck you, Lyle. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, you sure can. He doesn't even hear it right now.
Yeah. So the couple of things that I'm really interested in wanted to talk to you about was the biggest thing is how you've been before the lockdown, before COVID, before all this big virus thing going on, how you've been creating content and running your business without any sort of office situation. You're just doing everything online, as far as I know, or at least when I first met you, which was like at least 2 or 3 years ago when I first met you, and then
yeah, two years, something like that.
And you've been doing everything online and everything via Instagram, via Facebook, website, I'm assuming as well. So like how do you do, and especially the field you're working in, your field is fitness, like coaching people how to be healthy, which in my head sounds like it needs to be a one-on-one interaction.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what everyone initially thinks, is that you think of a personal trainer and you have an expectation of what that should be like. And then when you hear about it being in an online scenario, your brain doesn't connect the dots as to how that could work, because personal training is such a personal thing. But in my experience, they almost have to be approached as two different things, because what I can offer as an online coach, an in-person trainer can't do so, and maybe I can't physically be there with my clients, but I've kind of developed ways to be almost even if I can't be there for a single hour, which is essentially what personal training is, I can be
Yeah.
there for, so much more time within the week. And it actually becomes a more effective system because I don't just have that hour to assess problems and address questions and also train them at the same time. But now I kind of have this wealth of a week where we can like problem solve and try different things and like be in contact throughout the whole week, which is, in my opinion, a way more effective solution. And so, well, it was kind of around the time that I first, I guess, met Lyle, when I realized that if I was going to pursue this relationship, it could involve me either needing to be in,
Oh,
a different place,
yeah.
either for short term or for long term. And I loved what I did so much that I
Yeah.
wasn't willing to like just pick it up and like let it go.
Yeah.
And so I had to figure out a way to make it online and make it successful online. And so it's been now 4 years of figuring out
Mm-hmm.
what that looks like
Mm-hmm.
and how I can effectively train and treat clients without me physically being there. And it's actually been a really cool ride because I think I've come up with some kind of sweet spot where everyone is really benefiting. But it's almost like a win-win because I don't actually have to be there. I'm not limited to one space. Like I can continue working wherever I am.
Mm-hmm. And now I think, and we'll get into this. I think me being a teacher and you being a coach, I think this is probably the biggest challenge we are facing right now, especially for classroom teachers, where we have to
Mm,
adapt to the current situation, which is the lockdown, and not able to actually physically be in a place with another stranger one on one. So
yeah.
you know, walk me through this. If I'm your client and I say to you, Jen, like, I want to lose a couple kilos or want to gain some muscles, do you how do you approach that via online? Do you like I won't even assume anything. Like you tell me
Yeah, I mean, there's
what would that
different
look
ways to
like?
go about it. And I've kind of developed different avenues depending on what type of client you are. So, the next closest thing to in-person training is if someone, just needs the accountability of hearing my voice and seeing that I'm like physically looking at them at the moment, we can do what's called like a virtual personal training session. So
Mm-hmm.
similar to how we're doing our conversation right now, I
Yeah.
have clients where they're on the other end, they're in their little home gym space, and
Yeah.
I'm here on the end kind of going over what they need to be doing, how they need to be doing it, checking their form and that sort of thing. And that's
Yes.
that's more directly like fitness training.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like the nutrition and just like lifestyle coaching that comes with what I offer, that is more of it's kind of like a whole approach. So whereas that's an option to them, I also create, workouts for them that they can do on their own. They don't physically need me there, which allows them to kind of do those workouts whenever it works best for them and in whatever way that works best for them. So
Yes.
that's one of the components. And then also there's nutrition coaching, which is really, I'm interacting with my clients daily as to, what are they eating? How much are they eating? Where is that food coming from? And
Mm-hmm.
depending on where their goals are, I kind of take bits and pieces of each approach and make it in the right ratios that hopefully gives them the most success.
I see. That's interesting. Now, let me see if there's any transferable skills that you and I both have.
Hmm.
So, for example, now that as a music teacher or any teachers right now, but specific to my field, which is music, when I'm teaching kids in music now,
Yeah.
it's more what we call, it used to be in the normal situation, it would be I do, you do, we do. So I do something on the piano or my instrument, and the student do something on their instrument,
Yeah.
and then this third time we do it together. But now
Yeah.
what I've had to adapt is more you do, and then I'm just observing you. So like I'll be sitting exactly like this, and then the student will just be playing. Oh, the connection is unstable. Yeah, we'll be fine. So sorry, going back. So the student would just be playing the piano, and then I would be more just constantly looking at the
Hmm.
student, saying, "Hey, your left hand or your right hand, yada yada, whatever the problem is," and we're trying to
Yeah.
fix that. Or
Yeah.
the other way, where I would, then this is more towards for adult students or high school kids who are a bit more technic um computer savvy, where I
Yeah.
will ask them to record something,
Hmm.
and then they send it to me, and then within the week before our next lesson, I would look at it and then I would give them notes just like
Yeah, that would be
almost like a
fairly similar.
virtual masterclass sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And that would be fairly similar to what I do. For example, a client will send me a photo of food, like say it was their meal, and same thing. Then I would make notes based off of, the recommendations that I had given them. If they were, adherent to that, or if they were slightly off, I give them kind of notes that way. So that would be very similar.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
And
Now,
then
yeah,
I
sorry, go on.
also do I also do like a community element. So where clients are working with me privately, similar to kind of what you talked about, I also have like a community group where all of my clients collectively can come together. And then in addition to that, what I do is like biweekly Facebook Lives
Hmm.
or just a live like Zoom call. And that's
Oh,
where we
okay.
come together as a group and, maybe in your situation as a teacher or teaching a music class, you're
Hmm.
now teaching to a group of 10 rather than just like one on and on or private one-on-one.
Yeah.
And so I find the combination to be quite good because then they have the accountability of the group. They can see that other people are engaged with the process,
Yeah.
but then they're equally accountable to just you
I see.
on their own. Yeah.
Okay. And now, because of this whole COVID happening right now, literally within this recording, how has it affect your income? Has it affect clients saying let's pause it because I lost my job, or I'm not certain? Like, has that starting to happen, or has it stayed the same?
Yeah, my career has always been the one that's the first to go. If there's any kind of economic crisis,
I think mine
I'm
as well. To be
yeah,
honest.
like I'm considered like an accessory profession. I think that like you can take it or leave it, but like
Hey,
if you
we're
have money,
boutique, hey?
yeah, that's great. But surprisingly, considering all of like this COVID stuff,
Hmm.
my business has done the opposite of what it normally does. So I'm
Yeah.
more in demand than I have ever been
Yeah.
because people don't have gyms to go to.
That's
And
right.
if people have kind of used gyms as a clutch in terms of they're just like super comfortable in a gym setting, but they've never entertained home workouts, they are like
Hmm.
clueless as to what they can do with either no equipment or like really
Yeah.
limited equipment. And so I've
Yes.
found that actually the demand has increased, which is nice for a change being the one that's needed versus the one that's like cut.
Yeah. That's right.
Um,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm the perfect example. Like, I used to just be like, oh, if people are like, oh, you should do home workouts, I'm like, I just don't want to. Let me just go to the gym. Like, let me get that deadlift bar and just deadlift or bench or squat or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
but now obviously that's not happening anytime soon, I don't think. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
all right. So far, my only workout is I try and aim for like 100 push-ups a day. So like I'll do 10 every time I remember, like 10
Yeah.
before toilets or whatever. And then, but I'm just like, but I don't know. It's for me, it's like when I'm at the gym, I don't know if you feel the same, but when I'm at the gym, I'm sort of in a trance. Like
Mm,
I I know it's usually before work or after work. Most of the time it's after work, and it would be all right. This is my time to just zone out and lift
yeah.
heavy things and just like I don't know, like what's the word?
Yeah. No,
Like
I totally.
relate to my like primal side where I'm just like, ah, heavy shit,
Yeah.
fuck. Like, do you know what I mean?
It's a place where like if you're doing anything else but working out, it doesn't really make sense. And so I think you
Yeah,
like it's to channel that because you're in an environment where other people are working out, where
yeah,
you have the equipment to work out. Whereas home, there's so many other things that can be competing for your attention,
yeah.
which
Like your
is why.
boyfriend would text me and be like, "Hey, look at this," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, I don't want to work out. Blame him."
But it's amazing though because yeah, it's forced people to have if they really truly want to pursue that, they either have to find help doing so or they have to get creative. And I
Yeah.
guess what most people are paying me for generally is
Mm.
accountability. And so now people just need that more than ever
Yes.
because they don't necessarily love the workout situation that they're in.
Yeah. And I just had a thought, like, because of COVID, and people think, like, I need to be healthy to not get the virus, so I need to be working out. I just had a thought. That's all.
No,
Yeah.
no, and that's also very true. But
Yeah.
it's been interesting, just in the 7 years that I've been doing this job, this
Yeah.
is the first time where I've actually felt like exclusively needed
Yeah.
and applicable to what's going on. And so I obviously don't want to be feeling this way. I'd rather COVID not be a thing, but it is a kind of like silver lining, I guess,
Yeah.
just to own professional development, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Oh, sorry. Let me just fix this a little bit. Yeah, that's exactly right. Now,
Mm.
other than this is your are you do you have a company name that I can plug, or is it just your name?
Yeah, my business name is Benefits Personal Training.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then everyone get on board with it. You need to get it.
Instagram,
Yeah.
TPT, hey.
Bow, 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 bow. But that's a good segue to my next point is
Mm,
I am ever since I graduated and got my teacher degree.
mm,
And within I think a year and a half of that graduation, I opened up my music tuition thing.
mm.
Didn't take it very seriously at first, and I would say it took me going away to London, coming back to realize how much I did not enjoy working for someone else. How much I was
Amazing.
so restricted by,
Yeah.
and I mean, this like schools are not, you know, corporations like, like it's not like it's no like Amazon where you got to go through layers and layers and managers or whatever. Like it's a
Yeah.
school. It's a very simple, like, I'm sure like normal parents could work out like the hierarchy, but even
Mm,
that I was feeling quite restricted and
mm.
controlled. I mean, don't get me wrong, the schools I've worked at, enjoyed them, but there was still these political, no, just shitty politics that I just didn't enjoy. Like the P department and the music department is fighting for, who's gonna get the next year's like funding, and then we're trying to like, like, oh, Jen's a piece of shit, like she didn't
Yeah.
get, the kids are fat, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like you're
There's so much like stuff outside of what you enjoy about the job.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So was this one of the reasons why you wanted to do your own thing, or was it
Mm.
just happened organically when you first started in Canada? Sorry,
Yeah.
you're Canadian, if and no one has realized that yet.
By the accent, you can't tell.
Dude.
But no, I started my business when I was 19, and that was
Wow.
not ever the plan. But I had come out of my practicum in college, or I had just done my practicum, and it was so shitty. Like it
In what?
was.
What were you studying?
So
Practicum?
I had done a personal training diploma,
Oh, okay.
personal fitness training diploma.
Yeah.
So all for personal training. And there was like a 6-month practicum where we were supposed to go out into the field and kind of experience what it was like. And I
Mm-hmm.
went to a private gym,
Mm-hmm.
and initially it was great, but like over time I just found things about it that I didn't like. And one of
Yeah.
those things was the way like management was and the way the
Mm.
owners were.
Yeah.
And near the end, like they had accused me for a bunch of different things, and being like, a young professional who's about to start their career, it was like devastating
I
to me.
know.
Like all I wanted to do was please these people, and so I was
Yes.
just like, how can you say these things about me? Like I
Yeah.
can't believe this.
Would
And
you mind
so,
sharing one of those things that happened to you while you were on the field?
well, about halfway through they asked, they were really loving the job that I was doing, and about
Mm-hmm.
halfway through they asked me to work for them, and I said
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
And I don't think they liked that. So then towards the end, they had eventually said that I was trying to steal their clients and steal
uh,
their business. And I
that
think
sounds
generally,
like
I just liked me, and they didn't like that I didn't want to work for them.
That sounds like a boy professing his love for a girl, and then the girl says, "No, I'm not really into
Yeah,
you." And then the boy's like spreading words like, "Oh, she's a slut. She sleeps around
yeah,
and blah blah blah."
yeah. That's basically what it was, like in a
I
professional
guess.
capacity. But yeah, I was devastated. So I was like, I'm either
Yeah.
going to quit completely, and I'm just not even going to give personal training a try because
Yeah.
I'm so devastated,
Yeah.
or I'm going to say screw you, and I'm going to have an amazing business that like I pride myself in. And
Yeah.
so that the plan was never for me to have my own business, but
Mm-hmm.
after that point I was like, I don't think I can work for someone who doesn't appreciate like the 150% that I put into
Yeah.
everything that I do. And
Especially
so
when you're a
I
university student on the field, because I was the same, like putting like the extra
yeah,
like 20, fifty
an
percent
extra
like
hour, like you're like
yeah.
fresh educated, like all of your education is fresh in your mind, like
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
just ready to pour it out,
Yeah.
and you
We were
do.
so full of hope and like, ideas and things, and then fucking society comes down and just pummels you to the ground and go, no. You gotta like conform to this square shape. You can't be a circle.
Yeah.
Who the hell wants to be a circle? And you're like, I hate this. Because
But
one
yeah.
thing I shared with the first episode was that I had a great time in London socially and even in my career as a teacher. But
Mm,
one thing I realized, other than I didn't like working for someone else, was
mhm,
I don't know how to put this in. I haven't thought about how I can put this into words, but essentially, like the 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 simplest way I can put it in right now is people taking you for granted. People thinking if like people don't think about you when everything's going right, but when
mm,
everything is going wrong or when something's going wrong, they go straight to you and they say,
mhm,
"Why the hell did you screw up?" And you're like,
mm.
"Okay, I did screw up, but
Yeah.
like I'm still learning because I
Yeah.
was a university student or I'm a new teacher or yada yada." But
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like people just
Yeah.
go, they
Totally.
just see the negative. And one thing I really want to get rid of that is like for at the moment with my teachers that I have two teachers who work with me, and
Mhm.
I make sure that like do not look at me as a like the boss or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just another teacher. We're just doing it together. I just happen to be the the owner of this particular business, but like it's I mean you can do it as well if you want. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
so
totally. I
yeah.
totally because I have
Yeah.
a coach now working alongside me as well. And same thing. When she came on with me, I was like, in my head,
Hmm.
I'm like, I don't want to be the boss that I hated.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be that person. And I remember what it felt like to be the person, that was taken for granted or
Yeah.
that, was neglected just in terms of being like, hey, are you enjoying this? Like
Yeah.
you're not just doing a job for me, you're doing a job for yourself as well. And I
Yeah.
want you to be happy about it.
Yeah.
And
And I
usually
realized how
that's
important just one text to them is.
yeah.
They go,
It's not hard to be a nice person, and it's not hard to be a good boss either.
yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, there's a fine balance. You don't want to be a pushover boss where people can just walk all over
Yeah.
you, but you
You
want to,
wanna be respected.
yeah, of course, but you just want to tread that line very, very carefully. And I think, in my personal opinion, I think that's a for me anyway, I think it's a ongoing learning that probably will never, I would probably never stop not learning. If that
Oh,
makes
I feel
sense. When it comes to like, oh, how do you actually communicate with people? Because not everyone, if you say 1 + 1 = 2, some people go, well, so does zero plus two is equals two, and you're like, yeah, I guess so. It's just different method, like,
totally,
yeah,
totally.
different
I think
ways.
yeah, communication, I feel like I've learned it from so many different avenues, whether it was from like, me and Lal doing long distance, where literally the only thing you could do was communicate,
Yeah,
or even just through like online training where I've never actually I mean, sometimes I'll hear like the voice of my clients, whether we do like a call or something like that. But for the most part, we're like typing out messages and we're communicating through writing. And
yeah,
it's a bit of a skill to be able to communicate in a way that people respect you,
mm,
and like want to spend time with you or want to work with you, but
yeah,
also in a way that's like creating change
mm.
and like progressing things forward.
That's right. And speaking of your boyfriend, Lyle,
Mm.
my next segue. How did you get?
Segue.
I know how you guys met. Sort of. I think I do. I think I have a 80% idea of how it
Tell me how
all.
you think we met.
Well, I
I
can't
want to
tell
know.
you everything, like, because I don't know what I don't know, like, what's right, what's the actual facts, and what's just Lyle, like.
I just wanted to hear what Lal had told you. That was literally what I was
Okay,
trying to get
all
at.
right, all right. Here's a segue. I mean, if we don't like it, we can spend the next, I guess, like another 20 minutes or 45 minutes shitting on Lyle. I mean, I can do that. I do it on a daily basis. Well,
Oh, I'll be nice
so
to him. I
the,
will love
the
him.
all right. The big picture that I got from him was I know sort of where he was at the time, but so he uh don't know the actual year. I can't remember. Maybe like 2000, when 2020. I think this was in 2017, 16, or whenever Lyle decided to do a big 1 year trip from Australia, and he always spoke about it to me and our guy friends, where he said, "Look, it's something that I always really wanted to do, and I've been saving up." And he actually I think anyway, he was working really hard towards that point,
Mm,
constantly working in restaurants,
mm,
constantly doing like, crappy hours and things like that. And then I remember quite quite well that he said to me that said, "Oh, this like next year will be the year I do my big trip, and then you won't see me for a year." And I was like, "Oh, cool, all right, well, do your thing, of course." And then we were we're teasing about like, "Oh, you're gonna like meet some girl, and you're gonna like never come back." I remember like saying something along that line, and
uh,
then he even joked. He was like, "No, that will never happen. I just want to like make some friends and da 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 da."
mm.
Lo and behold, you know, he came back and he's like, "Hey guys, here's Jen. Say hi."
Oh, that's funny. Well, to his family, I was an Edmonton friend for like 5 months.
Oh,
Like he
really?
would never tell them that I was actually who I was. She's like, I'm going to see friends in Edmonton.
Friends, plural. Apparently, there's more than one, just to like divert everyone's
Yeah,
attention.
just a little safeguard there.
So and yeah, so he said, and then I think I this is where it gets a bit hazy, where I don't know if he even mentioned you while we were talking to him when he was doing his big trip. But when he came back, he did say, I think you guys met in Switzerland, Sweden, somewhere really
Oh,
cold.
it's Denmark, which, yeah,
Okay.
Scandinavia.
Whatever, they'll somewhere
Kind
really
of
cold, the way you guys were
in,
skiing, because there was a picture that he showed me, you guys were skiing, and then it was like a picture of him, and then it was you hugging him, I think, and then there was another couple of people behind you guys, and he was like, "Oh, that's Jen." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And then your name just started appearing a bit more.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then
Well, it's funny because it's actually 4 years today to the day that we met. 4 years today.
and you decided to do the podcast with me rather than seeing
I didn't
Nick.
know until this morning. I looked at my Facebook memories and I was
Fuck
like,
you, Lyle. I win. Yeah, suck it. He's gonna listen to
sorry,
this.
not
I
our
wish he can listen to this so he
anniversary.
can realize how much I'm shitting on him.
Oh yeah, no, it's not our anniversary. It's just 4 years to the day that like I saw the back of his head, basically.
Oh, okay. So May 13th, 2016.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it was like the first day of our Kentucky,
So okay, so
and
back up. So you tell me your story now, so I can, because I
oh
think
yeah,
your story is probably a bit more accurate than the guy's story. So take it away.
oh well, yeah. I mean, I guess we'll see. But yeah, we met. We did a mutual Kentucky. So Lal was doing his year travel, and I had gone with a friend, and we were doing Scandinavia and Iceland for 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And so we picked the same tour, and it's kind of funny in hindsight because me and my friend Tanya were the last ones on that tour. Like Tanya was literally on the waiting list, so it was pretty close to the fact that we like wouldn't have actually even gone on that tour. So it's
Imagine
just
what
like
would
fun.
happen.
Yeah, it's weird the timing of things when you think
Yeah.
about it, but yeah, so we were on the same Kentucky together, and the first night we met, it was like at a bar, and we were all
Mm-hmm.
having shots, and he introduced himself as Budget Lyle because he said he was always on a budget, and literally all he did was drink beer. So all of us were like, "You're wasting your budget, man. It's not gonna go well for you." So that was the first time. And then I was actually
I'm
pretty
gonna call
clueless.
him that from now on.
Budget Lyle.
But July.
He's better at budgeting now. I'll give him that. But yeah. So, anyways, we that was the first time we met. But then our tour was only like 15 days or something like that, and I actually didn't think he was into me at all. Like I thought he was cute, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like
Were
there's an
you
option.
into him from the get go, or were you just like, oh, he's a good looking guy, and then.
Well, I went into that trip being like, I never want to see a guy ever again because
Oh
I had
shit! Like you were gonna become a lesbian or die with cats.
well, I was just like, I kind of bad experiences, and I was like, this trip is for me. I don't want to think about any guys. And then all of a sudden,
And your
Lyle's
friend's
like
like,
in my
yeah,
head.
girl, let's go and just have fun.
Yeah, that was literally the intention. And then I'm
Oh,
like, oh,
okay.
I'm thinking about this dude again. Like, oh,
Mm.
he's there. Like, he's cute. But
So
I
you
didn't
guys
think he
met
was.
at that night, and then what happened after that?
Well, we just kept on going, like doing the tour, and it wasn't until maybe like the last couple days where I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't even know if this like dude is into me. But I remember we were playing all cards around
Yeah.
this table, like there was a big group of us, and I came and sat down, and his leg was like locked to mine. Like I was just like, what are you doing? You're so like close to me.
Wait. Wait. As in like you guys were like leg and leg like that?
No, no, like we're sitting beside each other,
Yeah.
basically, right? Like there was like lots of space to be like spread out within this group, and he was just like locked right beside me. So then I guess I was like, maybe, maybe, I don't, maybe, I don't know.
It's always
Um,
funny, like listening to people's like first encounters. I love it anyway, like
well,
because it's
yeah,
always
but I
like,
mean,
does he does she? I don't know. Maybe I don't
well,
know.
Lyle was a charmer, so like in terms of all the ladies that could have been interested in him, there was like quite a few. So I'm like, oh, he's probably like into someone else, or he's just like on his own. I don't know.
My boy's
So I
pretty
didn't think too
charming.
much.
There you go, Lyle.
What?
That's one compliment. You're pretty charming. There
Yeah,
you
that will stroke his ego very well, I'm sure.
go.
But yeah, so I
So
guess
you
we
guys
just
just like touching thigh to thigh, leg to leg, basically.
yeah, just well, it just kind of got more, I guess, obvious, I
Yeah.
suppose. And then we started messaging each other like more
Mm.
privately outside of like group settings.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and I had made a joke uh, close to the end because we had been talking a little bit more and everything else. And I said like, hey, if you're ever in Canada or if you're ever in Edmonton, because I knew he was going to Vancouver to live with his aunt in
Yeah,
Vancouver
he's
for a
got family
while.
there. Yeah, and I think he
Yeah,
was even
so,
talking about working for
yeah,
his
he had a
uncle or
working
something.
holiday that he could have.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I told like I'm like, hey, if you ever come to Edmonton, I'll show you the mountains because he had never seen the Rocky Mountains, and where I live in Edmonton, it's 5 hours from the mountains, so
Wow.
like really close. So on
Yeah.
a whim, I said that, and then like we parted ways, and it was sad. And I'm obviously leaving out a few details, but it was sad, and we left. But yeah, so anyways, um, then he booked it like a few weeks later. Like he booked his flight to Edmonton, and I was
Were you
like, oh my
surprised?
goodness, this is happening.
Yeah.
So he went off and like he did South Africa and he did a bunch of different trips, and then he went to Vancouver, and then he
Mm.
came to Edmonton, and we basically had gone from knowing each other maybe like I don't know, a couple
2 weeks?
hours where we were
Oh,
actually together, the two of us, to then
okay.
having spent like 2 weeks together on that road trip 24/7. Like this guy was a stranger to me. It could have gone like so many different ways, but
I
it
mean,
was
for
like
all you know, he could have been like a rapist or like a serial
yeah,
murderer,
he could
like
have been Snitch
going to your
City.
house and be like,
I didn't even know.
"Hi, I'm gonna cut your throat now."
Yeah. Well, and I was totally invested. Like Val had to tell me to cool it before he came because I was
Mm.
like totally invested, and he was
Yeah.
like, maybe.
Is that what he was? Is that what he does with you?
Yeah, it does.
Jesus
But
Christ.
yeah, so we went on a 2 week road trip,
Mm.
and
Took
in
some
my
dope
head,
photos. Sorry, just
yeah,
side note.
it was good. But yeah, in my head, it was like that's it. Like we're done.
Yeah.
That was a fun fling.
Yeah, yeah,
Is what it
yeah.
is. And then after that trip, like everything was so easy and so natural that we're like, dang, kind of
Yeah.
want to see you again.
Yeah.
And the
I want
rest
to see
is
that South
history.
African boy.
What?
I want to see that South African boy.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's
So,
like I must say like one more thing I will say about Lyle is that knowing him so long, I know he does have he's a very emotional person, but he rarely shows that side of him unless I think it's either with his family or with his girlfriends in the past. And I
hmm,
knew that when he first introduced me, well, all of us, like me and a few other guys, to like us to you, I
hmm.
knew how he looked just completely. He was just glowing. Like he was just glowing with, just he was just like, yeah, this is Jen. Like every time he'll say talk anything about you, it's just smiles and it's like I don't know. It's like yeah, it's like sunshine and rainbows. And then I don't know. I think as a friend, I looked at that and I went, "Oh shit, this is okay. So this is probably like very serious." Because I mean, at the time, like in our head, we were like, "Okay." You went on this big 1 year tour, and then you met a girl. She definitely she sounds lovely, but it's
Mm,
she lives all the way in Canada.
mm.
How the fuck? And I'll repeat that again. How the fuck are you going to maintain a relationship with someone in Canada while
Yeah.
you are in Australia?
Yeah, I think that first year of us being together was a lot of just like answering that exact question of like, what the actual heck are you doing and how are you doing it?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think in the beginning, no one really took Lyle seriously. And also, like, probably from your end, no one, like, I know Lyle's family and stuff probably didn't take
Yeah.
me very seriously.
Well,
And
because
even when I came to
it
Australia
just
the
didn't
first
seem like, not to talk you down, but it was just like one big thing I go to immediately was logistically can't you can't fight time zone. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you might be
yeah,
sleeping or you might just woken up and then Lyle's probably doing something else completely different. So
yeah.
and I want to shift the focus back to you. How did you, because obviously you and I both can't speak for Lyle, but how did
Mm.
you maintain that relationship, that long? What's the difference between Canada and Australia?
15 or 18 hours.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. How do you maintain that?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I mean, I think if
Are
me
you
and Lyle had,
Shakespeare?
that is me.
That is
No,
you.
but I think, had me and Lyle not started in a long distance relationship, it would have been really challenging. But literally from day one, we were working with time zones. So there was never like a period of time where we were, other than when we met, when we were in the same time zone, the same location,
Yeah.
where it was super easy. So it's not like we had that to compare to and been like, oh, I missed that. Like, I don't think I can do this kind of thing. It had always been long distance. And we just figured out a system that really worked for us. So like
Mm-hmm.
Lyle every day would call me on the way to work while he was driving. He would call me
So what time
and
would
that
that
would
be for you
be
guys? Will you be going to bed, just making dinner, or
no, that was like midday for me. So like just after
okay,
lunch. And for him, it was like the very beginning of the day. Because if you
okay,
minus, I can't remember what it is now, but if you like minus a certain amount of hours and then just assume it's the next day, it's actually not
oh,
as
okay.
complicated as like 18 hours
I do that when I
sounds.
was in London with my family. Actually,
Yeah,
yeah, you just go back and you go, okay, that's the day. Yeah,
next
yeah,
day.
yeah. I see
Yeah.
what you mean. Yeah.
So it wasn't probably as complicated as it sounds when you say like, oh, 18 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So we would do, yeah, you'd call me every day on the way to work and we'd have our chat there. And then we'd obviously like message through the day. And
Mm-hmm.
then every weekend we would FaceTime, like every single weekend. And that was, we've done that up until January of this last year. We had done that every single week, every
Yeah.
single day for 3 years. And it worked.
So what I'm hearing is scheduling your actual like couple times.
Yeah, like just consistency. I think
Mm.
probably me and Lyle had always made each other a priority. Like I would always make sure
Mm.
that I was home on the weekends to
Yeah.
chat. And like I think people who are in long distance relationships, I know they fail quite easily. And I guess I don't really know why because
Mm.
ours worked out okay, but I can maybe assume it's because people don't prioritize certain things and then over
Yeah.
time it just kind of gets more and more relaxed and to the
Yeah.
point where they're almost detached from it and they're just not invested in it anymore.
Because you lose that,
Whereas,
don't you? You lose that passion. You lose that fire. Because you
well,
can't
yeah,
see
like
them
you don't
in
talk to
person.
someone for months, right? Like you
Yeah.
lose emotional attachment, you lose
Yeah.
like conversations go elsewhere with other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
I
So
think, yeah.
I don't want to get you into trouble at all. But was there a time while you were doing maintaining this long distance relationship, which like kudos to both you and Lyle, like it's fucking hard. I mean, it's hard for me to just call my parents when I was in London. They're like, "Hey, you haven't called us for like 2 weeks now. What's going on?" I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
busy with work, I
yeah.
guess." But
I
was
get
there a
it.
time where you, as one end of the other side of the world, where you thought, there must be someone like just close by. Like, was there any time? I, I hope I'm not getting into trouble at all.
No, no, you won't get me in trouble.
But was there a time where you just went, "This is just too fucking hard," and like, and I just met this guy, like, like I haven't.
It might sound super cliche. Yeah.
Sorry.
It might sound super cliche, but like there was never a time where I was like, I can find better somewhere else. I might
Mm.
be able to find, I mean, sure, I could think in my head, like, yeah, I could find easier,
Mhm.
but I've found like everything I'm looking for in
Mm.
Lyle. And like,
Yeah.
he's just, I literally had a list in my journal from like when I was a kid, and Lyle fit like every single thing. And so in
Including
my
being
head,
South African.
except South African, I didn't have
Yeah.
that written down. That was
Yeah,
just a
yeah, yeah.
bonus.
Yeah. Plays the
But
saxophone, used to be fucking fat when he was a kid.
yeah, but it was just like, it was one of those things where I would be like, in my head, like, yeah, I could find easier, but I'd be stupid to walk away from this just
Yeah.
because how good it is. Like, from half a world away, Law was
Mm.
able to communicate how invested he was in me,
Yeah.
and it like made everything else unappealing. Like, even the idea of pursuing something else, it was just like, why? Why would I? Like, I have it so good here.
That's beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
yeah, I think
do you
that's
have
probably
other
what.
girlfriends where they're trying to do like long distance and then they just fail and then you just go, yeah, okay, you didn't. Because what what I'm trying to ask here is because I've seen because obviously your relationship with him is probably the only long distance relationship I have seen that actually succeeded.
Mm,
Every other people's relationship, every other couple, doesn't matter they're straight, doesn't matter they're gay or whatever, but relationship, I find that as soon as someone goes, "Oh yeah, I'm in a long distance relationship," their mentality is very different to the way you and Lyle talk about long distance relationship. Because
mm,
to when at least this is how I see it.
yeah.
When I hear them say, "Oh yeah, I'm in a long distance relationship with this girl or this guy," they don't have that determination and um because I'll use Lyle as his very good example was that as soon as you guys started doing this long distance relationship, the way he talks, the way he, yeah, just the way he talks about everything has changed. Like it's almost like he's like, yeah, I'm in a relationship, so there's certain things I can't do, or there's certain things I need to do, which is call Jen at X time or X day or whatever. But whereas I see other people where someone would be like, oh yeah, I'm in a long distance relationship, but it's almost like it's a excuse. I don't know. It's a
Yeah, they almost like it, I almost get the vibe sometimes when I talk to other people who have done long distance relationships. It's like
mm,
it's almost got to be like a perfect storm of investment. So like
yeah,
both people have to be equally as invested and
yeah,
um yeah, invested in the situation. If one person is like slightly below or slightly off, like
yeah,
it just doesn't seem to work. But I
yeah,
don't know. It was just me and Lal. It like came together where we were just like, nope, we're a team on this. This is the way it's going to be.
yeah,
Because I mean, there'd be times where me and Lal would have like not fights, but like arguments or stuff. And
yeah,
my previous mentality would be like, "Oh my goodness, this is ending. Like
yeah,
this is it," kind of thing. And Lal was always like, "What are you talking about? Like this is just a conversation. Like this
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
mean
yeah,
we're breaking up." But for me, it was like I'd always go to the worst possible thing, whereas he
yeah,
was like, "What?" Like he would just be like, That's nothing's happening. We're the
yeah.
same."
We're just
And I
yeah,
guess that just maybe developed more trust for me as well, just like
mm,
knowing that like he wasn't gonna just give up so easily.
yeah. And I think that really says a lot about both you and Lyle as a person. Like maybe it maybe just takes that sort of mentality for a long distance relationship to work. Because I think a lot of times people will say, "Oh yeah, communication is key." I
Mm,
100% agree, but I think that's such a general statement.
mm,
But whereas obviously the way you said it to me was, "Oh yeah, we would call each other at this time," and then you have a plan. But whereas
mm,
I could be communicating with you or him every single day, and then like, am I in a? Is our friendship good? Like just because we're
mm.
talking every single day? Well, not really, because if we're just talking smack all the time, it's like, well, there's no, like,
Yeah,
you're becoming less of a real friend. You're just becoming like, I don't know, like those friends where you would just bring along for have a good time or whatever. I don't know. I think
yeah,
in this
the last
time,
step of it.
yeah, exactly. So I think that's something that we learn the older we get, and we learn to learn from
Mm,
experience, the bad ones and the good ones, and Yeah,
Yeah.
but no, it's very interesting because one thing your boyfriend doesn't do very well is communicate. Like, I don't think he would ever sit down with me and just talk about this, like this thing. Because I was always really curious as to how you guys made it work. But
Mm.
yeah, all right,
Yeah. No, it's interesting in hindsight,
yeah.
thinking about how we did it. It
Can you
is.
imagine if you never went on that Kentucky tour and you would just be in Canada right now?
Yeah, I've thought about my life before, and I've even asked Lal that question, and it's crazy to think the timing of things and how things come together. Sometimes you're just like, wow, like was that just chance or like was this something more? Because there's just like so many little details that have come together. But
Do you believe in that? Do you believe in? I know you're really. I know you're very religious. Do you believe in? But do you believe that sort of destiny? People, some sort of force is pulling that string when it comes to relationship, or do you feel,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
you know what? I probably used to be the type of person that I was like, there is one person out there, and they are
mm,
my person. But I mean, Lal definitely feels like my person, but I don't know if
mm,
I believe now that there's like only one person in the whole world that can
yeah,
like be the puzzle piece to your life. I think probably that there's more, it can be more than
yeah.
that. But I also do believe that definitely there's timing um, and connection of different things. And so maybe it was just like, yeah, I don't know. It seems sometimes too detailed to think it's just like that just happened kind of thing.
So much
But
things could go wrong. Like you
yeah,
just no go on that Kentucky tour.
yeah, like yeah, it just I don't know. I really don't know what to make of it, but I'm thankful for it regardless.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I'm thankful for that to happen to Lyle as well. Because I mean, I want my friend to be happy. I want my friend to enjoy his good life with a good girl. Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. All right, I'm
Thanks.
gonna I'm gonna stop talking about him. He's all right. Go back to fuck you, Lyle. Fucking hate you. Invite
I'll
me back
watch
to
it.
your house, okay? Invite me to some dinners, okay? Go on, just get your shit together. All right. Now, moving on. I can't. I feel weird
You
every
gotta give
time
it
I'm.
back.
I
I
can't give
get
him
it.
too much props. I gotta. At least I feel a bit uncomfortable. Now, let's talk about this next topic, which is you being Canadian and you decided. I mean, this is sort of, I guess, the second part of your relationship, but you decided to move all the way from Canada to Australia. Now, I recently had similar experience where
Mm,
I left um, Australia to
mhm.
UK to London for a 2 year work visa. So I worked there for 2 years, and I recently came back. And I thought I just wanted to see what your, I mean, this COVID thing sort of throwing everything a little bit different. You're not always staying at home, I promise you. But how hard was it for you and your family? Because I know you're a very family orientated person. How hard was that for you to make that decision and go, I'm gonna, I'm gonna shoot this shot. I'm gonna try and see if it works.
Literally the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life.
Hmm.
Like, and it still is.
Yeah.
Still is. Just like I almost look at long distance with Lyle and I'm like, man, that was easy. Like we could both live within our comfort zones, have each other. Like obviously I would miss him, but
Yeah.
it was really easy in comparison to figuring out what's next for us. And there are so many different things to consider with that. But yeah, the first initial decision to come here for what would be the year, because we agreed that we would try a year in both places. And I was the first one to come here.
Okay.
It was really hard. It was really hard because I'm very close with both of my parents.
Yeah.
And I have a sibling, like I have a brother, but he lives in Toronto. And so I'm the only like kid from my parents that actually lives in the same city as them,
Which is
which
Alberta, right?
Alberta, yeah.
Yeah.
Alberta is the province, Edmonton is the city.
Oh, Edmonton. Okay. Got
But
you.
yeah, so being family oriented and also just being really close with my parents, it was like incredibly hard to consider, what I wanted, but also what they wanted for their life and for their future. And
Hmm.
it definitely still plays a role.
Yeah.
And love family is so lovely also. Like this is probably why sometimes long distance is challenging, is not necessarily the relationship part so much as like what does life look like
Mm.
after a certain point.
So other than the weather, I know obviously two countries have very, very, very other opposite weathers.
Mm.
What have you find it very easy to integrate yourself into the Australian culture, or have you find that quite difficult? Have you been able to make friends other than people like me who is just an extension of Lyle? Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's kind of hard considering COVID, right?
Yeah.
Because just like prior to kind of everything with COVID happening, I was finding ways to integrate myself and meet new people, but like they were
Mhm.
so just like superficial, quick encounters that up to this point they hadn't really gotten a chance to root at all. And maybe they
Yeah.
will eventually, like after COVID is over.
Yeah.
But it's more just been kind of relying on Lal's family
Yeah.
as well as like you guys, Lal's
Mhm.
friends. You all have been super accommodating and welcoming to me.
Mhm.
But I find Australian culture fairly similar to Canadian culture
Okay.
in the sense that people are like socially inclusive and like to get together and do things like that. But I
Yeah.
do find it harder, and I don't know, maybe it's just because I haven't had to make new friends in a while. That
Mhm.
might just be it. But I found it harder to like put myself out there and actually create connections with people where I'm like, ooh, this could go somewhere,
Yeah.
like other than just being like pleasant with each other. So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see after COVID if that improves. But I did realize that I was kind of dealing with social anxiety when I first came here and before COVID, just
Of course.
because I was quite isolated. And I'm sure you can understand this. If I'm
Yes.
like quite isolated and you feel at times like Lal was working, so I would feel like lonely at times and not really know what to do. And sometimes yeah. So it's been interesting. Since COVID, though, I've kind of just been relying on my normal close friends at home because
Yeah.
everyone's communicating long distance in some capacity.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you said social anxiety, that was something that I definitely I wouldn't say I'm an anxious person. I definitely am not an anxious person. But I when it comes to making friends or being in a social situation where I have to meet new people, not to give myself not to talk myself up, but I generally can tell within the 5-10 minutes of speaking to him whether or not like if this person is right for me as a friend. And I'm not even talking
Mm,
about meeting girls or like searching for a girlfriend, things like that, but more just for friends. And I think that was one ability I've always had quite early on. So when I was in London, I would go to these social events and then I would meet people. And I don't know how you feel about Brisbane. I know Brisbane isn't a massive, dense city like London, but while I was in London, I found people to be very, um, as you probably can,
mm,
as you're probably aware, like there's a lot of expats like myself going there, working there, and then for X amount of time, and then they just bounce back home, like what I did. So I think when I was there trying to make
yeah.
friends and communicate that, a lot of times people are putting that first defense wall, going, "Are you actually worth my time? Like, are you just here for
Mm,
Are you here for the long run, or are you just here for X amount of time and you're gonna piss off back to your country?" So that was the one thing I found really hard
yeah.
to do. And luckily, I've made a couple of friends that I still keep in contact with. But in saying that, some of them are slowly, disappearing. A, because of COVID, and B, because I came back to where all of my friends are, all of my good friends
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
And and see, it was a time difference. And then if you're not really invested in that friend, it's not even like you had a bad breakup. It's just like, this
Yeah.
was
It's just
great.
some friendships are a
Yeah.
seasonal
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, we had so much fun. And then, if I see
Yeah.
you, I would love for you to come and we can hang out again and then talk about, all that stuff. But
Yeah.
other than that, like I'm happy to just go on and live my life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting where you root yourself, kind of what grows from that. And maybe had you stayed in London longer, you would have found that those kind of became stronger friendships that you relied on. But
Of course.
um, yeah, I know for myself, I probably have just relied more on the friendships that I've already established at
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
but yeah, it's been a really, I think moving across the world is great just for learning about yourself and how you
Yeah.
interact with others and what makes you uncomfortable and why.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I've learned a lot about myself so far already.
Yeah.
And have you found, like, this is a good question for you, but did you find when you moved to London you appreciated home in a new way?
1,000,000%. 1,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,0 Australian weathers for granted. I
Mm,
took my, not that I didn't treat my friends well, but I definitely could have made more effort while before I left London.
mm,
I took some of my friends for granted. Definitely took my parents for granted. As in, I took my family for granted, and I think
mm.
I took how comfortable I was for granted as well. Because when I was
Yeah.
in London, like I was just all by myself, and all the people I've met, all the Australian expats that went there, always it was everyone was in a couple. I met the guy
Mm,
and I met the girlfriend. I met the girl and I met the boyfriend. It's always a couple. So I felt like I was the only one who
yeah.
were a single person
Mm,
in a country that is filled with people who don't really care about you because everyone's too busy with their lives and rent's too high. Everything's so expensive. I remember
yeah.
vividly, very very vividly, that I was lucky enough to stay in a school accommodation, but what I had to do was I had to go purchase furniture and go purchase. This is such a like a date like a moving problem that I can
Yeah.
probably relate.
Yeah.
But I had to buy like all the way from like the couch all the way to a freaking tissue box or utensils or toothbrush
Yeah.
and toothpaste. And then I remember because I messed up the order of my mattress coming to my school accommodation, I ended up having my phone just turning on like the flashlight on my phone, and then didn't have a sleeping bag. But I brought in my suitcase. I had a bathroom towel. I had that,
Mm.
and then I wrapped up my big coats into a pillow, and I slept like that for two or 3 days. And then
Oh,
I was just like, oh shit, I fucked up. Like maybe I should just go back home. Like
oh,
I was like, fuck the contract.
yeah,
Fuck whatever I just signed. I don't give a shit. Like I'm gonna go home. But
yeah.
but obviously that for me at least it comes and goes. It's just sort of like it's like a wind hits you and you
Oh,
get
yeah. I can totally relate to what you're saying.
yeah I get a bit emotional, but then I'm not the crying type, but I just like I'm sort of like
Yeah.
processing it, and then it's gone, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, I gotta deal with whatever. I gotta buy toilet paper or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
the first because I went there a week before school started over there. So that entire week I was busy like just walking around, buying things, purchasing things so I can like, get myself sorted and settle down
Mm,
comfortably. But yeah, it was definitely tough. But I mean, I think these are the things people don't tell you when you move over, when you
mm,
move, you know,
yeah.
because no one would ever tell me like, because if someone from Australia would ask me, "Oh, I'm going to London. Like, what do you think I should do?" I would just throw all my knowledge to them, and I'll be like, "You need to do this, or else you're not going to have a bed. You need to do this. Make sure you bring a
Yeah.
freaking
Yeah.
thing. Like
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. And
Yeah,
then
yours would have been harder too because you were completely alone. Like at least I had, Lyle to kind of shoulder some of the responsibility and
yeah,
even just figuring things out. But yeah,
yeah,
alone would be.
yeah,
I've thought before. I'm like, if I was here alone right now, I don't even
yeah.
know how I would feel.
I mean, one thing I was really scared of was the first 2 months, or the first month, or the first 2 months. I think it's the first month. The first month I couldn't get paid
Mm,
because as a teacher coming from overseas, they required a police check from UK, but also a police check from Australia. But the Australian one took way too long. So the
mm,
payroll, I missed the payroll, like the final day. So like I literally like had a meeting with my principal. She was a lovely lady. Um, I said to her, I said, look, I, I, I don't think I can make it. I don't have the money. Like my parents could have sent me some money, but I didn't want that because I made a point that I'm not going to take any money from them.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah,
like, I said to my principal, I was like, like I don't think I have the money to even buy a train ticket, what do they call it, an underground ticket to
mm,
work. And I don't even think I have money to buy dinner tonight. If like because just because how I've
yeah,
missed the payroll and and because as
yeah,
you know, like the first few months of moving to a different country, it's
yeah,
financial. It's just a money game. You just need to get the money.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then so my principal looked at me and just went, and she was so baller, like she was so boss. She just went, "How much do you need?" And I gave her the number, and she went, "Stay here till 5. I'm going to the bank now." So she drove to the bank. She pulled out that amount that I said that I will need, and then took it off her own account, her personal account,
Wow, that's amazing.
chucked it in an envelope, and said, "Here you go." And I said, "Where'd you get this? Is this the school money?" She's like, "No, that's my money. I'll just deduct it from your next payment." I was like, "That's fine. My next like salary, because UK you get paid a monthly salary,
Oh,
monthly paycheck." And then so I was like, "Oh shit, okay." And I think I by family wise, I'm a Buddhist. But I think I'm more spiritual than I don't want to be defined as a Buddhist. I think I'm just more spiritual. I think I just believe there's a higher power, I guess.
mm,
Um, but when I look back, like you said, when I go back and look at those things, I'm like, if I didn't meet this principal with these
yeah,
characteristics, and without her growing up, like learning to help people, and all that sort of,
yeah,
one string here, I wouldn't be able to survive that month. I would probably just like
yeah.
go on a big like fast for like 2 weeks,
Yeah, but isn't that amazing? Like just
Yeah,
talking about timing and how things come together.
yeah, and I think that's the beauty of you know personal experience. We all
Yeah,
have these little moments where you go, "Oh shit! If that didn't happen, this wouldn't happen." You know.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's very cool.
life's
I like
beautiful.
stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like,
and I think,
mm.
hey, we've done an hour. We've done more than an hour.
Nice. That was good though.
Yeah, I think that was.
Get all of
I think
your
that's
answers you wanted.
yes. I think that's probably the most wholesome like episode I've done so far.
Nice. I bring
Because
the soul, you know? I
you
bring
bring
the
the
soul.
feels. You bring the feels. But fuck Lyle. Fuck you, Lyle.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch this now and he's
Where?
gonna
What is he
feel
doing right now? Is he just like in the TV
I'm
room?
baking the space cake thing. It's like
What's
his
for dinner?
favorite snack. Just like a protein cake, but he loves them so much.
He's baking a protein cake.
Yeah, it's called a space cake.
Oh, you guys getting high?
No, it's not
Oh,
that kind of cake.
oh. I thought you said space cake.
That's what the recipe is called. It's not like a druggy cake, though.
I
It's
mean,
just called space
nothing wrong with
cake.
that. Nothing wrong with that. You in COVID? People get
No,
drunk and
but
get
I'm
high.
just saying. Yeah, that's not the kind of cake it is.
All right, all right.
I mean,
She's a personal trainer. She doesn't do all that shit.
I'm from Canada where that is legal, so just saying.
Yeah, that. Are you a user? While you were in Canada, did you have to use that? Or were you
Um,
did you like
I
it
tried
or?
it once when it was still illegal,
Mm-hmm.
and that was enough for me.
Oh, okay. That's it.
I have not yet, but I do know people that do, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's sweet now that it's legal, I guess.
Yeah. Now, actually, one thing I was reading an article, or just a news somewhere. It said during this whole COVID thing. Oh, actually, no, it was a guy filming on his bike. He was doing his exercise thing. I don't know if you've heard about this, but he was
Hmm.
going through everyone's bin in America,
Yeah.
and then just like as he's riding his bike, you'll see people's bin, putting outside. And he's like, and then there's just people and people drinking, and just so much alcohol piled up during this lockdown.
Oh, I believe it,
just
especially for
everyone's just getting drunk and doing nothing.
yeah.
I said to one of my midwife friend, um, I said to her, I said, I bet you in 9 month time, all the babies are coming out. just pop, 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 pop. I'm like, you better just take that in 9 months time. You better just take a holiday or something because you're gonna be
Yeah,
freaking busy.
busy.
Yeah, because what else are
That's
you gonna do?
true.
We couldn't go
Well,
out.
that's why us Canadians have so many babies in the spring because we're locked in the winter.
But in saying
Back.
that, like, I do want to go to Canada. I mean, originally my plan was to stay here this year, and then maybe like January, February next year, around my birthday, I was gonna go and check out Canada, check out the famous Alberta, check out the famous
January is a bold time to go, but power to you.
January and February.
Depending on where you go, it'll be very cold.
In January, I thought December would be like Christmas time, and no.
Yeah, it's like 6 months long.
Oh, okay.
So like January is like you don't even have like Christmas to be excited for anymore. It's just like shitty cold. So it's like -30 cold snaps in January.
All
So
right.
like if
What's
I
the
mean
lowest? Do you guys do Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Celsius.
Celsius. Okay, fine. So we're all normal. Um, what's the lowest temperature you've ever had to like be outside in?
Well, I wouldn't be outside for very long, but it has been -47 where I live.
Minus 47. Is that what you're saying? Am I hearing that correct?
Yeah,
Minus
yeah, correct. And that's like
47.
the time where you're supposed to stay in home, and like they actually like do an advisory that you can't let your dogs out for like longer than 5 minutes.
I was gonna say like
Like
all the possums and rats, dogs, cats, they're all
yeah,
gonna
they're either
die.
cuddling or they're indoors somewhere. But yeah, it gets cold. I think Law's been in Canada when it's like -40 one time.
Jesus. Because I think at least in UK, for me anyway, I feel like UK winter you can still enjoy the winter fashion, which is what I did
Yeah.
anyway.
Although
But I
it's
remember,
fairly wet, right? It's humid, so like it's kind of a cold that sticks to you a bit more.
yeah, and
Yeah, Edmonton is at least dry, so like it's cold, but
yeah.
if you have like, enough layers on you, it like doesn't stick to you. Like you're generally fairly warm then.
Oh, okay. Because I
Yeah.
had a friend last who was living in Toronto, but I believe Toronto is on the other side, right?
Yeah, so another kind of like wet cold, like it
Y-
sticks to you a bit more.
Yeah,
Um,
because we were both living. So she was in Canada, Toronto, and I was in London, and we were
yeah.
comparing how cold it was. Basically, what we our result, our investigation was in London you can enjoy the winter fashion, and in Canada you need to just survive. It's all about survive. Hence why you
Yeah.
have Canadian Goose.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, you're pretty accurate, especially in like maybe there's like a couple seasons on either or like a couple months on either end where
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
like get it looking nice, but in the thick of it, you just need to stay
Hey, look, I can talk to you hours, but I think I would
warm.
much prefer talking to you and Lyle in person after this
Yes, we have
freaking
to have you
lockdown.
over.
Yeah. All right. So plug everything in. So you have a personal training company called.
Benefits personal training.
Does it have a Facebook? Does it have an Instagram? Does it have a
Yeah,
website?
Facebook is benefits personal training. Instagram is just like my well, it's like personal business account, but that's bpt.jen with
There you
two
go,
N's.
everyone. Thank you very much, Jen.
Thank
And
you.
alrighty, everyone. Goodbye. Thank you. Thanks, Jen. Appreciate it.